Uh, Welcome to the Middle East Forum webinar and podcast series, Israel Insider. Today I will replace Ashley Perry, and unfortunately Stacy also doesn't feel well, so I'll help her to start and to present the questions. So we will start. I will remind you the format. I will be giving a brief a briefing on current Israeli affairs for 15 minutes and then open it up for questions. Should you wish to ask a question, please use the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen to type your question. And I will be trying to get as many questions as possible. So please, let's start. So the past week was, as every week, definitely during the last months, was very intense in Israel. Three things that I think are the major things that happened that I would like to address. First of all, first and foremost, is the continuation of the wave of the terrorist attacks that we felt during the last week. And again, on the weekend, we had a very dramatic terrorist attack in, again, northern neighborhood in Jerusalem. This time it was Ramot, which is exactly after the Neve Yaakov, which, if you remember, the bloody terrorist attack that took place a few weeks ago next to the synagogue. So this time, a young Arab from East Jerusalem tried to kill people that were walking with a car, and he killed on the spot two people. One of them is a very young guy that was married only a few months before, and a young child, 8 years old, and he injured a few other people, including another child, a 6-year-old, who died in the hospital after. Now, there were conversation about the fact that this terrorist had some, he was sick and he was hospitalized before in Israel, and that he had some panic attack exactly 2 days before, and his father told the people that took care of him that he definitely is in a very bad situation. So maybe it's connected, but many claim, and I support this claim, that it's a terror attack is terror attack. It doesn't matter what happened. If people in a attack of an illness think that the cure might come by killing Jews, it doesn't make the problem any easier. It still shows the deadly incitement within the Palestinian Authority and within the social network that reach Arabs not only within the Palestinian Authority or in Gaza, but also within East Jerusalem and within Israel. So this is one. And then later, during the weeks, we had few other stabbing attacks. Two of them took place during 2 hours on February 13, which was Monday. Both was executed by children, actually. One boy, 17 years old, 14 years old, who injured a Jew, 17 years old. So the terrorist was 14 years old only. And the second, another attack that took place in 2 hours after, the terrorist was 13. So we see again in addition to the attack that took place, if you remember, in Silwan neighborhood next to the old city a few weeks ago, the next day after the terrorist attack in Neve Yaakov, we see this tendency already of little children, 13 and 14, and then it was also 13, who are, as we call it, lonely terrorists, apparently not organized, not organizingly engaged by some terror organization, but they are motivated by incitement in the social media. Primarily today it's TikTok, and this, again, many claim, and I support this claim, that this is also organized, okay, because the incitement is organized, it's financed, and those who finance and make this incitement and this propaganda know exactly who they target, and they do target little children of 13, 14, 15 in order to motivate them to go and kill Jews. I remind you that the boy of 13 years old, the one from Silwan, who killed that soldier in Ir David, David city, you must understand, Ir David, the city of David, and Silwan is actually the same neighborhood. It's just the Jewish name and the Arabic name. So it's actually a boy takes a gun and goes to kill his neighbors, to fight, kill his neighbors. And it's a major threat. Now we had another attempt of again a terrorist attack using a car the same day, but unsuccessful. Two people were easily injured, and then another at the same day, an Israeli who by mistake entered the city of Kalkilia was attacked by stones, but again he was only easily injured and no casualties. These are the very bad news. We see the continuation of attacks, and now the second definitely major event that takes place in Israel now, and I know that you spoke about it a few times already with Ashley, is the judicial reform that continues. But this week we had a major development. First of all, because the president of Israel tried to encourage the two sides, the coalition and the opposition, to compromise and to speak, and he proposed some kind of proposal that will stop the laws at the moment, and he proposed actually that all the sides will find a compromise. And actually the coalition immediately stated that they are ready to negotiate. Smotrich did that, and Simcha Rotman did that. Yariv Levin was less willing to compromise, but definitely we saw much more voices of willing to speak from the coalition side. However, much less compromise from the opposition, as Lapid said that we definitely respect the proposal of the president, but we demand fully halting of the promotion of the law for 2 months, no less. So after seeing that, the coalition actually promoted, and also on the same Monday of the two attacks that I just told you about, we saw a very big, very large, I definitely think the largest I remember in Jerusalem, march to the Knesset, Some statistics speak about 60,000 people to stop. It was at the day of the votings to against the reform. Now we already see these demonstrations, every week, and this was definitely a peak of demonstrations. But that was, not new. But what was new is that few very major figures supporting the opposition stated unprecedented statements calling actually for violence. It was the former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, who actually said that, we will not stop and we will proceed to, as he called it, a real resistance. And it was clearly understood that he actually called for kind of, some people say violence, some people say maybe even kind of civil war. Similar statement we heard from Mayor of Tel Aviv, Ron Huldai, and another statement that shocked many people was statement of the former Chief of Staff of Israel Defense Forces, Dan Chalutz, who was the Chief of Staff during the Second Lebanon War, who said, "I will understand those who will not go to serve in the army after this reform will pass." Now, it made many people angry from the right-wing camp, because that was the chief of staff that fought against against the soldiers, or those who were before their service in the army, who didn't want to serve because of the disengagement. Then he punished them. So people from the right wing say, so when it's against your agenda, so you punish them, but when it's in favor of your agenda, you encourage them. So it's, again, hypocrisy. So the division within the society, the polarization within the society is so tragic today, that we see that everybody who tries to mediate is called immediately by both camps as a traitor, as he didn't choose side, and it's very tragic. Now we see some kind of, really, after the proposal of the president, we see some kind of a beginning of a process of a compromise, or at least lowering the fire. And we really hope, that it will go to some kind of a proposal, some kind of compromise, because this division hurts the very basic ability of the state of Israel, to fight and defeat its enemies. And we cannot fight our enemies without unity. And well, I have another minute. It's definitely, it's a big issue, but we don't have much time. So I want just to speak in a minute about the third very important thing that happened. I remind you that after the terrorist attacks some months ago, the government approved building another 9 Israeli outposts in the Judea and Samaria. But in the meantime, a few days ago, Israeli government approved again a demolition of another outpost, and Smotrich, Bezalel Smotrich, who by the coalitional agreement was about to receive the responsibility for the civil administration, the army civil the civil administration that controls the Judea and Samaria, and these authorities were not passed to him yet. He claims that this is against the coalitional agreement, and they start already to threat the government, and it's, I think, may definitely evolve to a coalitional crisis within the next days over this demolition of the another outpost. and not transferring these authorities to Smotrich. Likud so far, as they say, doesn't do it, as Gallant doesn't do it as Minister of Defense. So we will definitely follow up and see if this may evolve to a major coalitional crisis between two biggest coalitional partners, Likud and the religious Zionist party. Okay. I will read I will go to the questions, please. Okay, David Levine asks, now that the current government of Israel leans toward the right, do you anticipate a more serious crackdown on mosques and Palestinian leadership, which actively encourage such horrendous attacks by so-called children? Well, definitely, we all really hope and we all really wait, and I think all those who voted for the so-called, as we call it in Israel, fully right-wing government, that the government will have serious measures against this incitement. As I told you, I definitely think that the incitement in TikTok or any other social media targeting children is no less organized terrorist activity than launching rockets from Gaza, or sending or funding the terrorists that sit in the Israeli jails. So we definitely understand that Palestinian Authority continues this incitement, and it must be stopped. And we all definitely anticipate and see and wait that the Israeli government will stop it. Definitely now, when people like Ben-Gvir and Smotrich are in the government, and let's see that it will happen. So far, I just remind you that Khan al-Ahmar, the Palestinian outpost on the major road between Jerusalem and the Dead Sea, that this coalition, being in the opposition, stated that it must be demolished. Again, nothing happened. And those who today is in opposition, who were in the opposition to Netanyahu before the previous government and were in the government during the last year, again, did nothing. So either there is some information that we don't know. And by the way, the Supreme Court demanded the demolition of this Palestinian outpost. So at the moment, the right-wing government claims that the Supreme Court is left, but the decision on Khan al-Ahmar by the Supreme Court is actually more right-wing than the activity of the government now, because the Supreme Court demands the demolition and the government doesn't execute it. So let's see if this so-called right-wing government will definitely do what they promised to their voters. Okay, interesting question. I will take it, even though it's an anonymous attendee. The majority of Israelis are not religious, yet the government seems to be promoting a religious agenda. Do you think the coalition will collapse if the religious parties continue to promote the agenda? I just want to say that when you say that Israelis are not religious, why I take this question is an important issue. Today's one of the major issues that divides the opposition and the coalition is the matter of religion and the matter of the separation of the state from religion. But don't be mistaken, full majority of Israelis are either religious or traditional, having traditional Jewish identity. More than 60% of Jews in Israel eat kosher, keep somehow Shabbat. So even, within the, when you say religions, you mean the ultra-Orthodox and the Orthodox, but the voters of Likud, majority of them are also religious, traditional, and big parts of those who vote for opposition, they maybe are against the measures and the steps of the ultra-Orthodox, but it doesn't mean that they're secular. So it's much more complicated. You apparently mean the ultra-Orthodox, okay? If the coalition will collapse, if the ultra-Orthodox parties continue to promote the agenda, I don't see it happening, because Netanyahu needs them and will give them, I think, whatever they want, and the religious Zionist party will also give them whatever they want. So I think in this issue, the ultra-Orthodox agenda will prevail until the end of this government. Stephen Orlow asks, where do we stand with the dairy law? How is this tied to the judicial reform proposal? It's a very good question. I think that a very big part of the opposition to this reform is not only because of its content, but because of the form. And I remind you that the whole reform was presented by Yariv Levin just one evening before the hearing in the Supreme Court about the dairy law, about his ability to serve as a minister. Now, this, the fact that they tied the dairy law, his nomination to be a minister, to the whole reform, I think that made many people angry, even in the right-wing camp, because many people don't like the idea, outside Shas definitely, that Deri would be a minister, that he can be a minister, definitely that he can be a minister of finance, being twice a man that was caught on corruption. And now Netanyahu must have him, because he must have Shas in the government. So for him, Deri is the stability of his government. But for many people, binding the reform to Deri hurts the reform. So I think, and many people think, that if they wouldn't have tied the reform to Deri, much of the critics, much of the opposition wouldn't be so strong. So today, they halted, I don't know for how long, maybe for a few days, voting on dairy law, but I think that the coalition will not be able really to postpone this law, because Deri will want to be the minister, and Netanyahu will need Deri for the stability of the government. So I don't see that the dairy law will, be halted too much. And at the moment it will be back into the scene. It will I think will add into this fire of the division and of the opposition to the reform, again because of its form, because many people don't like the idea that we take a man who sat in the jail for corruption, and Netanyahu gives him control over the finance ministry. What is Burak Kormaz asks, what is the credibility of intelligence on threats against Israel disaster relief personnel in Turkey? Who is responsible? Is there cooperation between Turkish and Israeli authorities? I take this question also because, you know, this week I was on reserve duty in the IDF, where I serve in Home Front Command, so I know exactly what's happening with the Israeli rescue team that was sent to Turkey. And I must tell you that Israel sent the biggest rescue team to Turkey, and Israeli Home Front Command, you know, rescue professionals rescued many people, many children, one whole family. So there is a very close cooperation between Turkish and Israeli authorities on that, definitely, and lately on many issues. And as you know, Israel and Turkey are in a very warm relations back after many years of cold relationship. So definitely there were some threats against the relief personnel, but they're already back and everything is okay. And definitely we know that Turkey is very thankful, and the Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs flew to Turkey and met the President of Turkey, Erdogan. I don't remember when exactly, but a few days ago. So Turkey very appreciate and understand and appreciate the attempts of Israel and IDF in this enormous disaster. Enormous disaster. You know, the numbers of the people killed is extremely high, and we must understand, by the way, again, I can tell you as one that is dealing with this, that Israel is preparing for earthquake in Israel, as we know that statistically every 100 years there is one in Israel, and it can be in near or further future. It can be tomorrow, it can be 20 years, but we're definitely preparing to it. IDF and Israeli government is preparing to it, and there is a very big program of demolition of the old buildings that were built by the old standards before 85. We have a very little percentage, but big number, about 80,000 buildings that were built before 85, which are not by the good enough standards against the earthquake, and they definitely will be very damaged if it happens. So Israeli government now does much to demolish them and to construct new building with all the means to provide good security for the people if earthquake will happen. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I see that will there be a budget by April? We don't know. We definitely hope, because additional to all, you know, working with that budget doesn't help the economy, it doesn't help the government. So we really hope that budget will be soon, and might be until April, as all the country needs it. But unfortunately, we see that Netanyahu is so concentrated on the judicial reform that he holds many other important issues, because this is Netanyahu-Levin government coalition, because it's most important issue for them now. We really hope that they will not, that they will prioritize all the important things, including the budget. So Very, very unfortunately, our time is over. So we have come to the close of our webinar and podcast. As I said, unfortunately, Stacy is a bit sick, so I'm closing this webinar. So thank you for all those who were listening to me. For our viewers and listeners, please join us Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time with Tarek Fatah discussing Canada's foolish experiment with anti-Islamophobia. So
That was
thank you.
actually from last week, but thank you.
That was from last week. I'm sorry.
I forgot
Okay.
to update it.
Okay. So just follow the information that will be sent out, and good health to Stacy. and the next week, Ashley will be here. Thank you very much, and have a good day.